Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Rodney Duffett speaking, and as promised, I said I would make an introductory video for Master of Marketing Applications and Inquiries, just to orientate you as to what is required in terms of applications, and once you've applied, what you need to do. So this is sort of a dual purpose video. So most of you have received an email from me containing some or all of this information. So for those of you who have not applied yet and are inquiring about the Master of Marketing qualification, the first step is to apply as soon as possible. Okay, and you can do so via a link, or you can just go to the CPUT website and there should be direct links as well. Should you have a problem with the online applications, it's not dealt at a departmental level, but it is dealt with at an institutional level. So you can email using this number, or there's various numbers you can call if you have a problem, and they'll be able to help you. It's very important to note that we receive a lot of applications. So if you meet the minimum requirements, you are placed on a waiting list automatically. They send you a letter which is not very accurate. It's an institutionally produced letter, so pretty much ignore it and follow the instructions that I'm going to give you now. We usually receive 100 plus applicants, and last year we received over 200 applicants, but the truth of the matter is that for next year we have supervisor capacity for 10 to 12 new students, which is actually a big intake compared to previous years. Last year we only accepted 6, but a lot of students are finishing and graduating this year, which opens up space. Please note we're only allowed to accept a student if we already have a supervisor for them, so that is why we are limited in space. And a master's is a lot bigger and a big responsibility for both the student and the supervisor, so you cannot compare it to any of your other previous qualifications. The second step is, and so if you've already applied and you've been placed on the waiting list, is to complete a conceptual paper. And this I've attached as the following 6 postgraduate research concept paper template. Last year we called this a writing task. So essentially we had a big workshop last year, which I think, it was 6 or 7 hours. So I'm not going to do that again because all the information is essentially the same. The only difference is really the writing task. Well, the concept paper is much shorter than the writing task, but we'll get to that later. So what I covered in last year's workshop, and there's YouTube videos so you can watch, is the background to the articulation module, which I will also speak about more later. We spoke about our branding and digital research hub, which is an international hub, which is also the focus for a lot of the topics the master students can do. I've also given you a postgraduate research readiness checklist, and by the way, all these documents are also or were attached in the email that I sent you. I go through the library literature review. I also give you a library support, a research support as well, documents. I go through vocab and synonyms, which you can use to help you write. Then last year was a writing task, which is much bigger than the concept paper, but watch that because it really gives you extreme detail about the headings you can read in the concept paper, and you're not limited to the concept paper. In other words, you can give us a bigger task because essentially you really want to sell yourself to a potential supervisor. The writing task, instructions and submission templates, well, there's a new concept paper, but you can look at that, and if you want to add in some more headings to the concept paper, you're welcome to do so. And then I've covered referencing as well. Just one point to note, previously et al. Used to be in italics for those of you in my class, but now it is no longer in italics. Pretty much the rest is more or less the same when you studied here. For those of you who didn't study here, you need to familiarize yourself with CPUT, HRT, Harvard reference technique, because that's very important. So the main difference between last year's workshop and this year, as I said, the conceptual paper is much shorter than the writing task, just to make it easier for you to write so you could knock this together fairly quickly once you have a good idea of what your topic is. And if you watch the workshop, that's pretty much one of the hardest parts, is to work out what you want to do. And this is the minimum that you should do. So as I said, there's nothing preventing you from providing greater depth of information and extracting information from last year's writing task if you want to impress. Because essentially I'll get to that later, but it's not the department that's accepting you, it's the supervisor that's accepting you. But we'll get to more of that later. Also, a word of caution: do not copy and paste large quantities of text from books and journal articles, because each conceptual paper that we receive, I will run it through anti-plagiarism software, um, and it picks up 5 consecutive words. So, last year we had submissions that were 80%. So that's an automatic rejection. If people, if more than, a huge percentage is copied and paste. When you were BTech, the acceptable limit was 15%. So to avoid this, you need to merge sources together. You need to add your own voice inside explanations and conclusions. Use multiple in-text referencing to avoid plagiarism. And this we taught you at undergraduate level in any event. See if you can't get some type of free anti-plagiarism software online. Maybe Turnitin is what we use. Maybe you can get some sort of free subscription for a week or a month or something, where you can just use it to check your work. I just quickly, though, want to go to the conceptual paper, which is self-explanatory for this year. So the same master applications can be 4 to 5 pages, doctorate applicants longer. But as I say, you're not limited to this. You can give much more. So you'd give your names. If you have a student number, you'd give that. The department, you would select masters. We only do 100% thesis. There's no coursework. Select full-time, part-time. And it's important, if you select full-time, you've got 3 years to complete this qualification. If you select part-time, you've got 4 years to complete the qualification. The trade-off, though, is that full-time, often there is more funding opportunities available for full-time students. So university research funding, if you're part-time, they will not consider you. But then you've got to consider, are you really a full-time student? Or if you're working full-time and now you're trying to get funding as well, remember, you've cut in your time by a year and you're not actually a full-time student, so it's a risk. You may not be finished in 3 years. And so, then it's better to rather go part-time and make sure that you finish in time. They're becoming very strict on the length of qualifications, the time you have to complete, and we'll talk more about that later. List all your prior qualifications. So we're talking about your national diplomas and BTECs, or some of you did honors, list that. Area, so what area of study, what are you interested in? That's for admin use. So you need to provide a provisional title, and I covered this in depth in last year's workshop, so you can look at that. I cover the title, and everything is covered in these guidelines where I give you examples, and so you need to watch those videos. Then introductory or background, so they give you some good tips how to write it, and I've covered this comprehensively last year in detail, so you can watch that. The research problem, the same, I covered it last year in detail, but they give you some tips. The research question and objectives, well, you would have dealt with that already at BTech level for those of you who did BTech with me, but again, look at last year's writing task. The literature, you're definitely not limited to 2 to 3 pages. You can give more, but look at last year's writing task. The methodology as well, I cover this in detail in the writing task, as well as ethical considerations. List at least 20 references. Well, that 20 references is nothing, but that's the minimum. So you could have 100 references, or more. Again, watch the writing task in that regard. Keywords. These are generally drawn from your title. So this is the minimum. So you could give 4 to 5 pages, and but you can give considerably more as well. So this is what we the minimum requirements. And you can see what we gave them last year, and it's up to you what you want to submit. So just the research focus areas, so branding, I think there's room for, for students. I know 2 supervisors are interested in this. Digital, there's a few people interested in this topic. Consumer behavior, there's also several people interested in this in our department, and marketing related topics as well, marketing law topics. There's one person specifically interested in that. There may be other topics, but I've spoken to the supervisors and they said they're pretty much open to, or whatever comes in. But now, what is very important to note is that, and I'll speak about it here, is that what we're going to do is when your conceptual papers come in, which are due the end of November, so you have, 2 months, and some of you have already been working on it, and these papers can be emailed to myself, Rodney Duffett, and my details will be in the email that I sent you. So what I'll do is I will look at the various topics. I'll first run all the conceptual papers through Turnitin to check for plagiarism. If they, if the percentage is ridiculous, like over 50% or something, then I'm afraid we're not even going to look at your work further. So you need to be very careful about that. Then I will distribute the different conceptual papers to various people in the department based on their research industry. Their research interests, and they will then look at these papers, and some people may get 20 conceptual papers and they can take 3 students. So obviously they're going to take those 3 papers that best match their research interests, and the rest they can't take. So the supervisor is taking personal responsibility for the people they accept. So it's not the department accepting the students, it's the supervisor in the department accepting the student. And this student or you guys will be their responsibility, and they will guide you and mentor you through the process. So that's kind of how it works, and so that's why you want to make a good impression and give them a good piece of work on a well thought out topic which you've researched and referenced, to the best of your ability, and then it's really up to them to, decide who, which papers best match their research interest areas. So the conceptual paper is due the end of November, and then people will have a meeting after people have gone through these papers, and then they'll put forward who they're interested in, to select. And so if you're accepted, then you're required to register for your masters in 2021. We hope to finalize our selection in 2020, or by early January 2021. And then we will change your status to accepted, and the cost is roughly 13,000 a year. You need to do a compulsory articulation module for non-degree purposes, so you get nothing for it, but it allows you to register for this module and masters at the same time. So that's the advantage. It's a bit of a shorter process, but the downside is you don't get anything for it. And so you'll complete contemporary marketing and research methodology, which gives you access to the master's degree. This little module is at NQF level 8, but you don't get a piece of paper or anything for it. And this is a once-off cost at about 6,000 Rand. And by the time you've finished with this articulation module, you should be finished with your research proposal, because you should finish your research proposal in 6 months. And that's the beauty about this concept paper, is a good step to help you complete your research proposal. So I would, if you're able to complete, the more you're able to complete, the more of these different elements in the writing task you can complete in the conceptual paper, you're actually working towards your proposal already. It will shorten your time. Now, in the past, it's usually taken 3 to 4 years for our students to complete the masters. But we really try to streamline the process and make sure your proposal's finished in 6 months. And in rare instances, people finished in 2 years. But now, basically, the norm is we want you to finish in 2 years. And that is simply because now the maximum duration for full-time students is 3 years, as I've spoken about, and part-time students 4 years. So yeah, you really need to decide whether you're going to be full-time or part-time, and I strongly suggest you look at your postgraduate readiness checklist if you're really ready for this journey, because it could be a 3 to 4 year journey if you take the maximum time to complete the qualification. If you're really motivated and dedicated and work hard, you can finish in 2 years, and that would be fabulous. However, if you're rejected, unfortunately this will be for a majority of applications, 2021 is the final year you can articulate directly into masters at NQF level 9. And you know, the whole NQF level qualifications changed from an 8 level system to a 10 level system, and we're busy been phasing the 8 level system out. So this year our last DTech and MTech students will graduate, and then it will be no more. And so for the last 4 years we've been doing the articulation module for so now to bridge the gap from BTech at NQF level 7 to masters at NQF level 9. But now if you're not successful for this 2021 intake, you will need to complete the postgraduate diploma in marketing. And this is now the advantage of completing this qualification is it's a formal qualification, a 1 year qualification for full-time students and 2 years for part-time students, and it is equivalent to honors. And all universities should recognize this NQF level 8 qualification. So if you're not successful, there is a silver lining, is that you can complete this qualification. Initially it was due to launch in 2022. There was going to be a gap. However, there is a 50-50% chance that it could launch next year. So if it does launch next year and your application is rejected, we're going to then get special permission to allow you to make a 4th choice in your application. So then you can actually apply for the postgraduate diploma, and upon completion of the postgraduate diploma, then you can apply for masters again, because that's going to be the minimum requirement after the 2021 intake, our last intake for the articulation module. So I'm quite excited about this postgraduate diploma, because I think it will ultimately result in a better quality applicant, a better prepared applicant for masters. So yeah, that's just all the background information. I thought I'd make a little video to provide this to you verbally. So you can contact me. We're not really at the office, so you're not really going to be able to phone me now, but you can email me with any inquiries. And yeah, so basically you want to complete this conceptual paper. You've got 2 months to do so. End of November, email it to me, and then we can distribute it to the department, and then we'll let you know if we accept you or not. If you accepted, great, you register, you'll be allocated a supervisor. If you're not accepted, we'll let you know if the postgraduate diploma is happening. If it is in 2021, you can apply, and if you're accepted, then you'll do that qualification and progress afterwards to masters. So great, all the best with your concept papers, and I will place this video on YouTube.